And the last deck that I have to show for you guys is the aggro deck. It's going to be the Shark Chariot deck that I built, and this is not your ordinary Shark Chariot deck. Instead of the normal Ionian package, we are running Demacia tools instead, and I believe this to be notably stronger than the normal Ionia Shark Chariot list. So, the breakdown. Shark Chariot is a card that every time you have an ephemeral unit attack, it's going to return to the board attacking. So, it's a very aggressive list. Your board will get killed basically every turn because you run a lot of ephemeral units, and every time you attack with an ephemeral unit, they'll all come back and swing at the same time. This is further enabled by Hecarim, the big bomb drop on turn 6, who when attacking will summon 2 Spectral Riders, who will then in turn summon the Shark Chariots, and you will have a board full of ephemeral units that is going to be very, very crazy to deal with. We have Soul Shepherd, a staple tool in this kind of deck, where you have the ability to buff all allies that come onto the board ephemeral, and most importantly, the Demacian tools. That's going to be Lucian, who you will be leveling up very, very quickly in this list, often as early as turn 3 for an immediate amount of that aggro pressure, as well as Remembrance, which can often be made to cost anywhere between 0 and 2 mana in this deck. Remembrance is a real powerhouse in this list. You get really crazy cards at insanely discounted mana cost when you time this on the right turns. Outside of that, the big tool for this deck is Haunted Relic. The ability to summon 3 cheap ephemerals is going to combine incredibly well with Lucian. You can level up Lucian right away, Shark Chariot, Soul Shepherd, Remembrance, and basically everything else we are talking about. Like the Dawn Spiders list, we're running the 2 Ravenous Butcher, 3 Cursed Keeper package, and like the Control list, we are running Fading Memories. Fading Memories in this list can be used on Shark Chariot to make another Shark Chariot, and again, you can use it on opponent's units. So in a Shark Chariot mirror, even if you don't draw Shark Chariot, you can use Fading Memories on that too. It's also great on Cursed Keeper because it will die because it will be made ephemeral, and summon your Escaped Abomination nice and early. Lastly, we run some Challenger units in the form of Fleet Feather Tracker, as well as Silverwing Vanguard. This will in turn cause even more units to die. You can control when your units die, and you can protect your valuable tools like Lucian and Hecarim. Finally, we've got staple tools like Vanguard Redeemer and the big blowout of back-to-back on top of everything else. So this is a deck that will achieve very, very fast kills and have a pretty easy time against a control deck. All right, now that we've got that settled, let's go ahead and take this deck into actual opponents to see how we're able to perform. I'm actually going to be playing this against the Dawn Spiders list that I showed you before, and we're going to see how that works because it is actually an unfavored matchup for this list. So we've got Vanguard and Remembrance here along with Chariot and Keeper. Chariot and Keeper make for a pretty important opening hand combo, but without Glimpse they're a little unreliable. Remembrance is very powerful and an important keep, but it does tend to make the Keeper keep a little bit weaker. Keeper is such a powerful enabler. I think if I already have Remembrance and Chariot in my hand, I've got to kick Keeper here. Okay. And we hit Lucian. That's one part of our combo, so now all we need is the Haunted Relic. So one of the things about this deck that's very, very unique is that we're basically intentionally skipping turn 1 in almost every situation. If I draw a Fleet Feather Tracker, I'll usually mulligan it away. You want to play those later. And the reason for that is you want to bank that 1 mana so that on turn 3, you can play 3 different 2-drops, right? And this deck has a powerful amount of 2-drop bombs. There's the Shepherd too, wow. Okay, I mean, we can start putting out a bit of pressure with Lucian. I don't think that's really too counterable. Alternatively, we can just play the Chariot into the attack, which is of course better if we draw an Ephemeral later. We don't have like Shepherd into Chariot. You know, if we actually don't draw something to summon Chariot, it is actually better to play Lucian in this spot here, oddly enough. Just because we'll be able to like Shepherd the Shark Chariot afterwards. Let's go ahead and Chariot here. It's a really close spot. Okay. But basically, as you can see, the way this deck is going to want to play out, we're going to be playing... You know, our combo on turn 3 is basically 3 different 2-mana cards. That's like Chariot, Relic, Lucian, or Keeper, Glimpse, Lucian. Like, all of our power cards are at 2 mana, so we want to make sure that by turn 3 we're playing 3 of them. There's a Relic draw. We have a pretty good opener. Okay, Elise is jamming us up. And we've got the Soul Shepherd to pre-develop here. We obviously won't be able to attack until turn 4 in this case, and I think that's going to have to be fine. Shepherd is, I think, a totally fine card to develop. Okay. And we've got the Shark Chariot pre-developed. So we're going to see like the power of this deck's early game combo go off. This deck isn't reliant on the early game combo. Sometimes you can play it like a little bit slower and just get your Chariot wave on Hecarim. But when this deck is able to achieve the early game combo, it gets a lot more value. So you're going to see how that comes down here. The big thing we're going to do is we're going to play Relic, Soul Shepherd, and Remembrance for very, very, very large value. Okay? So we've got 6 mana. Oh my god, we've got double Relic. I don't even want to use double Relic here. We have 6 mana. Okay. He passes this turn. And we're going to go ahead and Haunted Relic. So Haunted Relic is of course going to summon the 3 ghosts. And they're all going to get buffed by the Soul Shepherd. We're going to trigger at least 4 deaths this turn, which means Remembrance will be discounted to 2 mana and will be playable right away. So a very common play that his deck can do in response is it can actually sit on Frenzied Skitterer. If he's a good player, when he sees this setup, he's actually going to try to Skitterer after the spirits come down, because when they go down to 1 health, he's going to just take the Valfeaster, that's fine. When the spirits go down to 1 health, basically, or sorry, when they go down to 1 attack from the Frenzied Skitterer, they no longer die at the end of the turn, and it no longer triggers the Remembrance. So this is quite interesting. I can develop the other Lucian here, and I think I can attack in a way that will force him to take a value block. So we've got the other Lucian, which he can totally block. The other Lucian won't be leveling up. This one, the counter got reset because it's a different Lucian, right? And that's a pretty big deal. So normally, how this would work is you would have Lucian, like if he hadn't killed the first one, basically when you play the 3 spirits attacking on the left side, because combat resolves left to right, these spirits will guarantee the Lucian will level up, right? So Lucian is a character that always wants to be attacking on the right side, right? Because now I need the 4th thing to level up, and basically I'm saying if you want to kill my Soul Shepherd, you're gonna have to level up my Lucian. Because 1 death, 2 deaths, 3 deaths, 4 deaths, and then Lucian is going to go to the level up here in this same combat, and we're gonna go ahead and set the opponent down to 3 health here, at the cost of course, our entire board, but we'll drop a 0 mana Remembrance after that, which is pretty good. So it would have been a misplay in this case to not block the Lucian at the same time as taking the kill on the Soul Shepherd, I think. Killing the Soul Shepherd, I think, is fine. I think he had to force the Lucian to level up there. I gave him, like, too good of an opportunity to kill my Shepherd. But blocking the Lucian can save too much health there. Okay. And, of course, Remembrance at 0 mana. It has the pull of 3 options, which are Swiftwing Lancer, Radiant Guardian, and Vanguard Cavalry. All 3 of them are pretty great cards, especially when they're cost 0 mana. There's the aggressive Elise line, and I think this is not necessarily a bad play. It's pretty interesting. I mean, you know, taking that much damage and going to 3 isn't a good idea, but keeping the spiders alive so that the Elise will flip and then you can just kill the Lucian next turn isn't a bad idea either. So he's going to basically just go like this. He's triggering a death and floating 3 mana, which says to me Dawn Speakers is a pretty significant threat here. Let's go ahead and play our Redeemer out, get a draw going. No Dawn Speakers, but he's got the second Elise. Okay. So we're both down to our last legs here, and we haven't drawn the Hecarim yet. We're at turn 6. Now, you guys probably know Shark Chariot, Hecarim, the combo. I mean, Hecarim on turn 6 is just a gigantic bomb that's going to be closing out games. This deck is able to use it very effectively, and, you know, we're a little less reliant on Hecarim draw than a normal deck. Basically, the way this deck works is you kind of need to draw either your Lucian combo or your Hecarim combo. If you draw both, you're basically nuts. If you draw one or the other, your deck is very good. Sometimes if you draw neither, the deck feels a little bad. It's a bit like, I wouldn't call it draw dependent, but it definitely can have some clunky hands every once in a while. Okay, so definitely a weird spot we need to attack with an ephemeral to summon chariots. So we're going to go ahead and get the Haunted Relic out nice and early. We're probably going to sacrifice one of them with Glimpse Beyond to see what we can maybe draw into. A really important thing here is to make sure we are getting value out of Remembrance. We are going to be playing Remembrance here. He's at 6 mana, which means he can't play Rasa yet. There's the Chronicler on Vanguard, a really cute trick that the Spider deck can do, which is basically, even though he hasn't killed a unit yet, or a unit on his side hadn't died yet, he killed the Redeemer, and then when it came back, a unit had died, so he drew a card, right? So you can basically just play the Chronicler as a 4/3/3 draw 1 in that situation, which is pretty great. So I've got Glimpse Beyond on probably one of the Unleashed Spirits I think would be best here. I really wanted to try to like get a bit of a more developed board before doing anything crazy. But, I mean, you can definitely see what's going on here. We've got another Remembrance. We've got one death triggered over here. We've got the Shark Chariot coming back on the table. And on top of that, we've got the Silver Wing Vanguard that's going to be representing 2 more forced deaths. Okay, check this out. This is part of the value of Silverwing Vanguard in this deck. Basically, this deck just triggers deaths very wide. These decks are built fairly similarly. Dawn Spiders are they're built around similar ideas. Dawn Spiders is built around triggering like 1 death every turn and getting a huge buff based on that. And this deck is built around triggering as many deaths as possible, basically. But they play super differently. So we're going to go ahead and Challenger the Elise. I'm totally happy sacrificing this unit, and I want to get his thing off the board. We're going to go ahead and summon our Shark Chariot, and we're going to take some exchanges here with our birds, right? We have to not attack with the Redeemer, because we have the Shark Chariot coming back for this last attack. Hecarim is getting some level up progress off of this, and as you can see, this unit's dead, this unit's dead, this unit's dead. Ah, my entire board is dead. Looks like we've got another 0 mana Remembrance coming in. We're going to go ahead and get a random elite. In this case, it's going to be Bannerman, which is pretty hilarious. We actually have a chance to proc these allegiance odds. I've never actually gotten Bannerman from that before. Okay. Oh my god, he's got 3rd at least. End me. Okay. Dude, are we actually going to lose? Seriously? Oh god. This is pretty bad. We definitely need to be drawing Hecarim pretty soon. And he's at the turns where his Rasas come online as really significant threats, which is a big problem. Rasa is an absolute monster, and if we can't kill him on our next attack, we will probably lose. A few interesting things we can do here. He takes the open attack. Open attack means he has back-to-back. I think that's the only reason you would take the open attack. Ooh, he's thinking. Actually, Rasa would make you open attack too, probably. Actually. Yeah, it's got to be a Rasa. Rasa is a pretty great card with open attacking because his mechanic of killing 2 units after a unit has died incentivizes being played after attacks in general. And of course, this deck doesn't run Rasa. This is an aggro deck. I want to be ending out games much, much, much faster than Rasa would really provide. Although Rasa is so powerful, I've considered running 1 Rasa in this deck, honestly. So he takes this open attack. I think it's a telegraph for Rasa, or maybe back-to-back. Obviously, we can't have the luxury of not taking a block like this. We always do have to take this block. There's not an amazing counter to Rasa here. The one important thing is Fading Memories. This is probably going to be my last opportunity to use Fading Memories for great value. So I think I should copy a Redeemer would be best. An Ephemeral Redeemer to draw into an option feels pretty solid. If he Rasas after this attack, if we put him on having Rasa, the counter Rasa is a blowout and game winning. Put him on Rasa. Put him on Rasa. He's on Rasa. Let's go. We have to go for this. We've got nothing else. We can't use anything here. We have to just let this resolve, take the 3 damage. And I'm gonna Snap Pass. Wow. He takes the back-to-back instead. Very interesting. Very interesting. No Rasa. So basically how it would work if he was saving mana for Rasa, this combat resolves, I pass back to him, he plays Rasa, kills my 2 units, and then I copy the Rasa and play my own Rasa, killing his Rasa and his Chronicler. That would have been a really good play. Now, he's got a pretty good back-to-back here. We might have to back-to-back-to-back-to-back, which would be pretty good as well. And again, I mean, we're in a situation where we are pretty incentivized to use Fading Memories before we lose any value on it. So we do just have to back-to-back-to-back-to-back. And we're going to have to take the Fading Memories line, I think. the Redeemer is so bad all of a sudden. I think I'm going to leave the Fading Memories open. I think that's my call here. Redeemer is not necessarily good enough. I want to play non-committal, and I think Memories on Rasa is still a play that could happen here. Maybe next turn. Not this turn. Oh my god, are you serious? Out of all the elites. Why are you doing this to me? Oh god. Oh god. Okay. Alright. Hecarim? There it is. Holy shit. So he can't Rasa yet. Oh. It takes 2 actions to do a Rasa because he hasn't had a unit die yet. So this looks like we're going to be good. Man, you know, you came in a little bit late there, Hecarim. I could have used you a bit earlier. But, you know, I'll take it. Honestly, I will. So there's not too much to do here. He's taking the Chronicler, which is about all he can really do. And we're just going to swing. Swing it in. And that's gotta be just a bit too much for that 3 HP. A Vile Feast is maybe the one thing that keeps him alive. He actually has the option for Black Spear as well. Vile Feast is gonna get eaten by my Glimpse in this case. And he'll be at 1 health on the Vile Feast. Yeah, that is lethal. Looks like he doesn't have the Vile Feast here, so it looks like we are going to go ahead and push this through. No Vile Feast for him means our lethal damage goes through. He's going to be at -7 here after this shark hits him. Alright, so that is a pretty close game. Again, I like to say the way this deck plays out is if you draw Hecarim, you know, you're good in kind of like the more mid-rangey, like I burst down at this point. If you draw Lucian, you're good earlier. We kind of only drew Lucian, and it took us a while to get to Hecarim. Like, we did end up drawing both, but we had the ability to stall it for those last few turns. And usually when the game goes on that long, you have great odds of drawing them both. But obviously, if we draw Hecarim, like, on timing, he's a lot more crazy, and that game wouldn't have been close. But we drew the Lucian half of the combo, so we were able to get a lot of value early with our kind of aggressive plays on Remembrances. So this is the kind of Shark Chariot version. That's kind of how it tends to play out. Like I said, I wouldn't call it draw reliant, but it definitely, like, it's going to play pretty differently, you know, depending on how it draws, and there are potential for awkward hands for sure. But it is an incredibly powerful deck when, you know, you have either half of your combo, honestly. Whew. Man, that game was so dirty. I had to take a shower. I'm just joking. This is actually a different day of recording. It's a little editing trick. Okay, so we've got the next game up here. Let's go ahead and see how we want to mulligan this spot. So we're going to attack on evens with 2 keepers and a glimpse in hand. Wow. That is pretty interesting here. So back-to-back and a keeper I think has to go. The second keeper is just a little too vulnerable towards not drawing an enabler for it. But I do like a keeper glimpse opener. It's going to, you know, maintain pretty good value here. There's Illusion. And there we've got the kind of turn 3 play already set in stone. You know, by turn 3 we'll have the keeper with the glimpse as well as the Illusion, which is going to be pretty solid. Okay. Illusion is developed on board. We've got the, of course, the combo. You guys pretty well familiar with at this point. Free chip damage in with Lucin. Elise is definitely unblockable here, so nice 3 damage there. If the opponent is going to play 2 cards and then attack, we'll develop the 4/4 blocker, you know, or if they put something on the stack after I put a keeper down. Fading Memories is pretty solid as well. Okay. They get 1 attack. Totally fine. We are going to let that through. Definitely not going to take a blocker here. For sure. And we can go ahead and develop the Keeper. I think the Glimpse Beyond is going to be necessary here, probably. I do want to be able to attack with tempo, if possible. So we can take a Glimpse this turn as well. Yeah, this is going to work. Okay, so yeah, we'll Fading Memory is the Keeper, get another one in hand. That's going to be pretty good value for play next turn. And the ideal draw would be a Remembrance, of course, but I mean, honestly, I'm much more than happy here. This is going to be totally fine. Glimpse Beyond for the draw too. Okay, sure. That doesn't really change my play. Vile Feast is probably too high value here off that Glimpse, actually. This match is going to go on long enough that I'd rather just deny this draw too. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So we'll save the mana for later. This is no big deal for me. Like, it's good value doing this. I think this play might be a little bit of a mistake on his part. I don't know what his options are, but oftentimes you don't want to take a Glimpse like that. With cards like Glimpse, you often want to be using them like when you're blocking or when you're right around, like when your unit is about to die anyway, because otherwise that might happen. And that's just definitely a pretty big counter in that spot. But I can definitely afford that 2 mana. Normally, I almost can't afford that 2 mana because I do need to play, you know, the Keeper and the Relic next turn, but we have just enough mana to be able to Vile Feast there to deny the Glimpse. There's a Black Spear, and that's going to shut me down pretty well. So, no huge Lucian, but we still do have a pretty great board. We'll have to use Glimpse instead of the Haunted Relic here. Because we don't have Lucian, there's just not as much reason for Relic. Here we go, though. Remembrance. I mean, we can trigger 4 deaths. It's not quite enough to play Remembrance. Yeah, there's actually no way to play Remembrance out this round, unfortunately. So we're just going to have to open Glimpse, I think. I mean, it's kind of a little vulnerable to his Vile Feast. You know, we were just saying that. But when it comes to a Keeper and when it comes to popping the Keeper, I don't think there's that much you can do about it. And our Keeper will still pop. Yeah, if he's got Feast, he's got it. That's fine. Definitely an easy spot here if you're him. Unless he has like... Nah, I don't think that deck has anything crazy enough to not take that Feast. Second Hecarim is good, for sure. It's a little early, but, you know, I'll take it. It gives you security, and Hecarim is super powerful here. Now, we don't have a huge Hecarim, right? We don't have any Shark Chariots. We only have one Relic that... We can't even really use that well without Lucian. So, that being said, Hecarim is still a good card. You know, we've got decent odds of drawing into like a Soul Shepherd or something. So we've got the additional Keeper. This Keeper could discount mana for Remembrance last turn. So let's think ahead. So this Keeper costs 2. It's going to be dying on turn 5. Can we trigger enough deaths on turn 6 when we're attacking to get Remembrance for free? If we bank the 2 mana, the additional Keeper into the 2, I think we can discount our mana from Remembrance. I think we can. If we save this Keeper for later. But saving it for 2 turns, I think is just too much. I think it's not worth it. I'd rather get this 2 turns out earlier. I really need to get this 4/4 presence on the board. Because his deck doesn't really have amazing ways of dealing with, like, a big board as well. You typically have to fight board to board here.
We must all make sacrifices.
There's a Vile Feast. That's interesting. Okay. Take the attack here. We do, of course, have, you know, Hecarim. One point of its level up. Pretty poor state. So, yeah, it's important to plan ahead. Think about your mana, especially with a deck like this. Like, if we bank this 2 mana, you know, we're not going to have this 4/4 2 turns earlier. But coming turn 6, it's like we can play Hecarim plus Haunted Relic. Haunted Relic with the banked 2 mana that we were using right here, right? Hecarim plus Haunted Relic. And then, of course, we've got the 2 things plus the 3 things here, which means if we bank 1 more mana going into turn 4, then we can play Hecarim plus Haunted Relic plus the 1 mana Remembrance, right? The only problem with that is, like, yeah, we're squeezing out 1 extra mana discount, but we might not need that depending on how, like, we draw. And on top of that, I just want to get my 4/4 on the board earlier in this case. Okay, so Silverwing Vanguard is going to do pretty well here. I think it's pretty important to develop something to kill this Elise. Elise is a pretty major threat in this matchup. In any matchup, actually. This card is just really spooky. Okay. Chronicler's down. That's a big one, too. Chronicler is definitely how that deck gets a pretty absurd amount of just raw value to the board. There's Crawling Sensation too. We're very lucky he doesn't have Dawn Speakers. Otherwise, this game would be pretty terrible already. Okay, so we do have Hecarim here. Hecarim has to be played. We can't attack before playing Hecarim. There's actually just no possible chance that's right. So I think we'll just take an attack with everything, leave one bird back to summon the two riders. That's going to be right. So nothing's really going to change on the sequence here in this case. So 2 riders for the 6 max board slots. No Shark Chariot is actually fine in this case because we wanted kind of more attackers anyway. Okay. This looks totally fine. Got a 2-1 into the 2-2. He's just blocking to basically trade. He's trading down his entire board here. This pretty much means he can't have Dawn Speakers in hand again. You'd probably keep at least one of these alive if you did, unless you had like Crawling Sensation as well or something like that. Alright, so we've got that 1 mana Remembrance, and we are good to go. The extra death on the Silverwing Vanguard is going to do just enough to make sure we get the Remembrance. And due to the way that the opponent blocked, we're going to get it anyway. If he had blocked it in a different way, we would have had to bank mana for this. So that's definitely a bit of a misplay on his part. When you're playing against this deck, you really have to keep the Remembrance mana in mind. Like, think to yourself, okay, I want to make it so that he can't get this Remembrance off this turn. This is a pretty big deal. Like, if he was willing to take, like, 1 more damage there, and of course, you know, that's a pretty high-level thing. You're not going to see that in most games, but at high levels, people will be like, okay, he's got Remembrance. It's going to cost him down to 1. I've got to let one of these creatures live so that the Remembrance doesn't get, like, the 1 mana discount this turn, right? Okay. 2 attackers here. I don't think this really does too much into me. To be honest, I mean, I could even block with Hecarim. There's not really too much stopping it. I'm just going to take this block, though. Hecarim's health is pretty important. You don't want to be willy-nilly with it or anything like that. Okay, so we've got the Soul Shepherd. It's a decent play here. Pre-developing the Shepherd before a big attack is pretty solid. You definitely want to get this out.
The journey ahead is long.
So this also protects us from the Rasa. Wow, he's not playing Rasa. Interesting. You would probably play Rasa there if you had it. Which puts his hand state at more likely back-to-back than Rasa. He might have just top-decked it here. Because the Dawn Spider's deck runs 2 back-to-back and 3 Rasas in this case. So we can go ahead and play, in this case, maybe the Cursed Keeper. I think just banking this 3 mana is fine. Develop this board like so. Yeah, this looks good.
Words move heart and armies.
And there it is. Alright. I think that's going to be a little too late for this matchup. I think I'm already too developed for that to be really scary. Because he will have to take like aggressive blocks against my Ephemerals. But if that comes down earlier, it really threatens this deck. So, we've got the Hecarim. No Chariot this time, which, like I say, is pretty unfortunate. We're going to see if he can do anything about this. Of course, the block that we made with this last turn puts us into Black Spear range, so he could protect his Dawn Speakers by doing something like that. I mean, the Keeper's pretty unblockable. Yeah, I don't actually want to let the Soul Shepherd die. Might give him value on that block. I think this is going to be fine instead. Now, we are putting him on back-to-back, and we have no fast speed response. Yep. That's probably a back-to-back. Could be a Vile Feast, though. So that's not super unexpected. Like, his deck does go later than ours, and we expected our first Hecarim to die. The most important thing is we just want to make sure he has to use a valuable tool to kill it, like back-to-back. Whereas, if we let our Hecarim die to a Rasa, then that's just our mistake, right? So it's important to protect it by playing our own Rasa like we did with the Soul Shepherd. Okay, so this is looking a lot better. He's telegraphing Vile Feast in this case, potentially, but I mean, honestly, even without Vile Feast, this is a pretty standard block you would make. Depends on what you have in your hand as options. That's one of them. Let's get our Redeemer out here, get some draw going on. It's a little late. I mean, I'll take it. There that is. Okay. Alright. Okay. There that goes again. Yeah, that's a pretty good stat wall. One of the cool things about Dawn Speakers with these birds is that they get into the 3 attack range, which is really, really premium for removal. There's a lot of high priority removal floating around at 3 health that birds are able to basically just blow out because of that. And that's one Hecarim down. There's nothing I can do to stop his card from killing itself either, which means the Dawn Speakers is going off. So we're going to have to take some trades here. Back-to-back is, I would say, less likely, because he could have killed my Hecarim last turn. But to be honest, I think given his hand state, it made sense to not kill my Hecarim last turn. So back-to-back is still very much an option. Something we want to definitely think about playing around. Kill as many units as possible here. And we will be trading off the Soul Shepherd. We're definitely not doing anything like crazy with this Soul Shepherd. So let's go ahead and do this here. If he uses back-to-back, he'll probably keep his Redeemer alive as well as his Escaped Abomination. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter what I'm blocking with here. This looks fine. One of the bigger threats is Rasa. So we might have to do a weird play to preempt the Rasa counter, depending on how that works out. In this case, it's only going to be a 4-1, but if we try to develop too much more, it'll be more. Like, for example, we can't play Hecarim here, because he could Rasa and really, really, really blow us out. So let's get the Cursed Keeper going at first. Now, Rasa goes by attack and then health and then cost. So how it's going to work is, if I play Hecarim who has more health, Rasa will kill the Escaped Abomination first, which makes Hecarim a safe play here. Unless, of course, the hand is Vile Feast Rasa. It's a very particular hand. You don't put him on Vile Feast Rasa. It's such a blowout if he has it, though. It's too risky for, I think, no reason. I'll play the Vanguard this turn, and then I'll play Hecarim next turn. There's the Rasa. So, that's good. We're even protecting a bit more of a valuable unit by getting our Vanguard on the board there. Bit of a sneaky Rasa, but, I mean, if you see it coming, there's a lot you can do about it. And that's one of the most important skills about card games, just being able to kind of, like, see the patterns and predict where your opponent's hand is going to be at each point of the game, like, where each thing is likely to be. So, Rasa takes the one Dawn Speaker's buff. That's pretty funny. That's a pretty interesting remembrance. So, we're going to go ahead and take a Hecarim. The Spook here, for his side, is the second Rasa, which he would take 2 actions to enable. Keeper doesn't do enough. It's a very good Haunted Relic here. It levels up the Hecarim. So, we're only going to summon 2 spirits, of course, because our bench is full, but that's totally fine. We are, after all, leveling the Hecarim. And as you can see, unit being overflooded doesn't count as a unit dying, so it won't help our remembrance odds. There's Butcher. You know, that's a pretty spooky board, but I think we will be able to get this through with the Hecarim level up. So let's go ahead and attack with Hecarim, 1 spirit, the block, the preemptive challenger on the Rasa, and the 1 abomination that he's going to have to trade with. Let's go ahead and summon 2 ephemeral spectrums off of that. So this attack is necessary. Check out this attack. We need to challenger the Rasa, so that he doesn't block our Hecarim. This is a really, really powerful use of these Vanguards, by the way. Really, really important. The Spirit needs to attack because we need 3 more attacks to level up Hecarim, which is also really important. And then lastly, we're going to attack with a 4-1 instead of the 4-4, because he has a 4-4 blocker that's doing nothing, and he's forced into a spot here where he has to take like an aggressive block. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We're threatening enough to take a kill here, so it doesn't actually matter like being this efficient because he has no hand and we're threatening lethal. So we should be good. Yeah, there's no way he can dodge this. It's perfect lethal. But it's just good habit building. It's important to be aware of these patterns. Okay.
Word is our bond.
So we end up being good. It's 5 and 4. And yeah, I can't stress enough how important the challenger birds are in this list. I'm not sure whether I like Silverwing Vanguard or Fleet Feather Tracker better, but they just do so much. They're great at removal, they're great at like protection. Challenger is just an insanely valuable keyword. Alright. And that's basically how the deck is going to be breaking down for the Shark Chariot list. There's going to be different ways it'll go off. You know, sometimes you'll draw more on one way than another. That was a bit of a weird game. It was kind of drawn out. We drew a decent hand, a pretty above average hand. He killed our Lucian, so it definitely made our hand a lot worse when that happens. You know, sometimes Lucian will die a decent amount of time, but when he doesn't, he just goes off in a crazy way. At the worst case, he forces removal on the opponent's side. And of course, one big thing about this is like, even though that doesn't go off, we still have the Hecarim kind of like plan B, so to speak. And that's how a lot of games with this deck are going to be playing out.